A new class has been released for predator hunting grounds. It is called the Exiled Predator, and it has a small backstory. It says here, it's unknown when or how this predator was exiled, but it was clearly able to adapt and hunt undetected in the far reaches of Yautja territory. While avoiding common hunting grounds, this Yautja was able to hunt legendary warriors on chains of the Pacific Islands. The exiled predator carefully interpreted and crafted armor from local raw materials out of a deep respect for these warriors. Upon closer inspection, the body armor does not look like the normal metal used by other hunters. It looks more primal. You could say it might be made of wood, and it could be linked to the comic book story called Predator Hunters from 2017. The story opens up with 3 stranded survivors on a remote island. They are desperately running through the jungle, trying to escape some unknown force, something they have never seen before. One of them gets caught and eliminated. The others fear for their lives and try to run off. As they reach the end of a cliff, a vicious, tribal-looking predator appears before them. It drops its mask and roars at them. One survivor tries to fight back, but is defeated very quickly. The last survivor fights the predator, but ends up hanging over the edge of the cliff. He holds onto the dreadlocks, and it's torn off as he falls down below. For now, he made it out alive, and so the hunter walks off with his trophy. The story then shifts to Enoch Nakai, who is now working at a gas station far away. You might remember him from an older story called Predator Big Game, where Enoch defeated a predator in combat. He is then approached by 3 individuals, Jaya Soames, Tyler Swain, and Rafael Herrera. Jaya is aware of the incident that occurred at Cole Army Base, where Enoch was stationed at in the past, and what the true cause of the incident was. Enoch recalls when he defeated the predator and was later asked to join a Black Ops team to hunt them down, but he declined the offer because they were mostly interested in the technology. Enoch just wanted to kill them. Jaya wants Enoch to join their cause. He's a warrior at heart, and he would be a fine addition to the team because of what he has seen and what he knows. At first, Enoch wants nothing to do with their cause, but before Jaya Soames is about to leave with her group, Enoch changes his mind and joins them. Along the way, they all speak about their encounters with a predator. Herrera was deep in the jungle when this happened. The devil himself walked the earth, but I discovered that the devil can die. But it was a hollow victory. The battle mortally wounded my organization, and within a few weeks, a rival finished the job and my family. Tyler Swain had a mission in Afghanistan. While he was transporting supplies, his team was attacked. Things looked pretty bad for them as they were about to get overrun, but just then, a mortar blast injured Swain and he passed out. He blacked out for some time, but when he woke up, it was real quiet. And then, that's when I saw it. Everyone was dead, and that bastard was taking his trophies. I was too hurt to do a goddamn thing. As for Jaya Soames, her great-grandfather, Captain Edward Soames, was tracking down Spring-Heeled Jack, who terrorized the late 19th century London. But Jack was no man, it was a predator. One can only imagine how he brought down the creature with the weapons of the day. The story of Edward Soames was in the comic book Predator Nemesis. He lured the predator into a mud pool, cut off its arm, and its own weight dragged it down to the bottom. After this encounter with the predator, Captain Soames would return to India. While he was there, he would be under the employ of the Maharajas to hunt man-killing tigers, or so the story goes. This family tradition was passed down to her grandfather and then to her father, until finally it was then passed down to Jaya Soames. The team would return to a vessel and meet the last member of their team, Mandy Graves. She survived an encounter with a bad blood predator. Jaya would brief the team on their mission. A fishing vessel out of Fiji was blown off course by a severe storm. The vessel had damaged hydraulics. and after being hit by a rogue wave, it capsized and sank. A few members did survive. They drifted on a raft to an isolated island, but it was not uninhabited. These men had gone through hell to reach the island, but now they were about to meet the devil. The 3 men were captured and caged up. They observed their captor for some time. This continued for several days, until one morning the men awoke to find their captor gone, their cages open, and weapons left for them. If only they had known what they were in for. 2 men did not survive this encounter, but one of them did. He fell from a high cliff area into the ocean, but later returned to the raft and took his chances in the open water. The man drifted into the open ocean for days until he was picked up by a New Zealand trawler. Before he died, he told his story to the vessel's captain. There were other islands nearby. As to why the survivor took his chances in the ocean, perhaps he was fishing illegally, so it was best to drift in the ocean than to stay on the island. Back in the 1800s, the islands were settled by Malcolm Bunting. He wanted to create a tropical utopia, so he exchanged valuable lands to gain ownership of the island chain. The current steward is Bunting's great-grandson, Dr. Henry Bunting. But the one reason Jaya wants to go there is because a predator could be on the neighboring island. Before the fisherman passed away, he shared his story, but to back up his claims, he brought with him a piece of the predator dreadlocks. He never let it go. Enoch does not sound too confident in facing more predators. Since he fought one before, he knows what their technology can do. Jaya Soames would then show him their weapon arsenal, but Enoch thinks it's not enough. In another storage room, she reveals some items they took from other predators. They analyzed some of their tech and developed countermeasures. We get a small look at Jaya Soames during her encounter with a predator. She knew what these creatures could do, and what they would continue to do unless they were stopped. So, like everyone else who's part of this team, she too faced a predator at some time. As they approach Amelia Island, they have to dock with no visible weapons. The ship they're on is disguised as a science vessel, so they don't arouse any suspicions. The last scene here is a look at one predator catching an animal, eating its meat, and giving a small portion to a captured human. During the cover of darkness, the team sends in drones to the neighboring island of Kahua. They switch to night vision and find the waterfall mentioned in the briefing, but keep looking for anything unusual. Just a bit further away, they locate a site with a few human skulls. This is enough intel for the team to move in. As they pull the drones back, they get spotted by one of the predators on the island. It seems as if the predators will be expecting company very soon. When the team meets up with Dr. Bunting for a meal, Jaya Soames explains their reason for visiting the area, which is their cover story. They're conducting inventories of fish stocks and conditions of some of the more isolated reefs in this part of the Pacific. Malcolm Bunting found this island long ago, which was far from man's reach as can be. He traded most of his holdings to secure it and create a refuge from mankind's excesses. This was then passed down from generation to generation. Even though the island is mostly self-sustained for their way of life, Mr. Bunting still has family holdings in New Zealand and elsewhere, which provide him with extra income to support the community. When asked about Kahua Island, which is not far away, Mr. Bunting says his grandfather turned it into his own private hunting preserve. He brought in all sorts of exotic animals. He also says he's never set foot on Kahua Island. As the team starts to pack up and head back to the vessel, one lady from the island says goodbye to them, but tells Jaya Soames something strange. She says this: "Please, come back and take me away from here. Come back soon," which gives the impression that this Paradise Island has more secrets than we know. The team reviews the drone footage, so they decide to suit up and head to Kahua Island at night. When they arrive at the beach, they activate their cooling units and night vision. As they reach the jungle area, they hear rustling nearby. They draw their weapons and prepare. but out jumps a tiger and it runs off. It's not what they are looking for. While the team was distracted by this, one member gets attacked. A spear impales his body from behind. It seems like something has spotted them. They assume they can't be seen by predators because their thermal signature is concealed by their suits, but they can see the predators with their modified visors. They open fire, injure the predator, and follow the blood trail. Mandy takes lead and rushes to find the location of the target, but then loses the trail. It disappeared. But just then, the predator leaps down from above her, slashing her with its weapon. She's down, and the predator makes a run for it. The team fires their weapons. The predator tries to run, but suffers many wounds. It stops and gets taken down. When they examine the body, they notice something is different. This predator has no technology. It's primitive. Then they hear someone nearby, a prisoner. They set him free and tell him, "You are safe. It is dead." But the man tells them, "What do you mean, it? There are 3 more of them." When the strike team contacts base command on the boat, Durga orders them to check the creature and camp. Take whatever equipment you can and head for the boats. There's no valuable gear but wooden masks and spears. But out of nowhere, one of the members gets attacked. The team splits up. The main group heads back to the boat, and 2 of them would cover the rear, while Herrera and another hold down a line of defensive fire. He thinks their cold suits will make them blind to the predators, but he is unaware that these hunters are not using the PredTech with thermal vision modes, so they are still visible to them. Swain is then ordered to provide cover fire for Herrera, who is still behind them. Swain tries to stay, but sees another team member get taken down and his skull ripped out in front of his eyes. He is unable to open fire and just runs away. Mandy then shows up and meets up with Swain, who says, "We gotta get out of here. They're right behind me." Mandy is unfazed by his warning and runs back towards the enemy. She would then come across one predator, but she chooses to throw her weapon down and pulls out her knife, issuing a challenge of honorable combat. Then, out of nowhere, a grenade is tossed ahead of Mandy. It explodes, and she falls to the ground. As she gets up, Enoch greets her. The 2 of them catch up with the others on the beach, just in time to grab a boat and escape to the vessel. Enoch asks them, "Did you see Herrera? What happened to Herrera?" But both Swain and Mandy stay quiet. It looks like Herrera was just captured by the predators, hung upside down and tied up. One of the hunters pulls out a weapon and cuts Herrera's ear off, only to add it to his collection of ear trophies. Back on the vessel, Mandy gets mad at Swain for not helping Herrera and leaving him behind. Swain would be approached by Jaya Soames. She tells him, "You cannot withhold information. We are at a crisis point. What happened out there?" Swain didn't see Herrera, but he saw one of the predators kill Bradford and tear him apart. Then it looked at me. I froze. It was like Afghanistan all over again. The truth is, his heroic predator encounter, it was a lie. He was never injured. He was hiding. He was the only one left. He had a chance to shoot the creature, but he was too scared to do anything. The team counted on him. Herrera counted on him, but he let everyone down. Enoch would then reach out to Mandy about what happened. Mandy thinks back to when her team was taken by the bad blood predator, saying she was supposed to die with her team. She wants to be with them. Enoch recalls the time he lost a lot of friends to these creatures. Maybe there's a reason he was spared. Enoch wants to hunt them down on the island, and Mandy just might join him. The man they rescued from the island then starts to panic again, saying, "We need to leave right now. It's not safe here." Jaya Soames then tells him that the people on Amelia Island are in danger from those creatures. This man seems to be the only one aboard the vessel that knows what's really going on. He tells her, "Don't you understand? This is their show." We then see a few boats with passengers covered in what looks like predator masks, rowing near the boat. The battle is not over. Henry Bunting is aboard these small boats. and he calls out to the crew aboard the Durga vessel, telling them to prepare to be boarded without retaliation, as he placed explosives on the hull of the ship. He detonates one of the bombs to prove he's not joking around. Once Dr. Bunting boards the Durga vessel, the entire crew is secured, and only specific people are taken back to the island. He says there's a special ceremony, one that's become tradition for uninvited visitors. This is when he explains the story about his great-grandfather, who founded this colony and broke his back to build it. The colony was knackered, coming apart at the seams, but one night, fire came down from the sky, a fire that changed everything. That's when the exiles arrived. These were monsters, devils from hell, but great-grandfather reckoned these were visitors from another world. Their ship had sank in the open ocean and sunk like a stone. Its crew barely escaped alive to our little paradise. But they were soon at their business. Great-granddad rallied the colony and fought the exiles. Many colonists died for each exile they brought down. After a long war, his colony had changed. They grew strong and with a purpose. They became more primal. They no longer lived within nature. Nature lived within them. After several exiles were killed, Great-granddad decided to capture the rest. The remaining 4 exiles were starved to make them weak enough for transport to Kahua Island. He planned to make a game preserve there, bringing in exotic animals from far-off lands. But now he had the most exotic catch of all. The exiles were then released into the jungles of Kahua Island with no means of escape. Over time, more game was brought in, like boars and the odd tiger. The exiles had the means to survive, if they had the backbone, that is. And that they did. Before long, they were thriving, like they were born to hunt, to survive, to kill. Kahua Island became a place to hunt other men and women. The people of Amelia Island embraced the predators and their reason for hunting. The 4 people brought back to the island were Swain, Mandy, Enoch, and Jaya. They were given weapons to take and a few minutes head start. The hunt would soon begin for them. As the 4 of them run through the jungle, they decide to split up. Their chances of survival might be better if one of them makes it out alive. Mandy gets attacked first by one of the human hunters dressed up like a predator, but she defends herself by using the spear weapon he threw at her. A few men looking for Enoch would pass a stream of water, only for a coconut to fall inside. They get surprised, and one man says this, "Nearly crapped me undies," which I think is the funniest part of the story. So anyways, Enoch would then be seen up top in a tree, hiding and waiting for the right moment to strike the targets that are below him. He jumps down and slaughters the few men nearby. A few hunters would locate Jaya Soames in the jungle. They surround her, and she gets injured. She falls down, barely able to fight back. It seems like this might be the end for her. But just then, one of the predators leaps down and takes all the men down, sparing Jaya Soames and letting her live. Maybe it's because she was not holding any weapons, so it would not be a fair fight. So she runs off. Jaya Soames would later run into Artemis, the lady she met on the island earlier. Artemis wants to stop what's happening, so they run to her boat and head for the Durga vessel. Artemis would distract the guards upon arriving. Meanwhile, Jaya Soames would go underwater and remove the mine from the hull of the ship. The 2 of them would take down some of the guards and secure the ship. The situation is then under control, but they cannot leave yet. She plans to leave a parting gift to her host. The chopper flies into the nearby beach and makes contact with Dr. Bunting and a few of his men. They fire their weapons upon them, and many casualties occur. Dr. Bunting is last seen at the mercy of Mandy. She tells him one last message: be the hunter. Enoch is then shown at the edge of a waterfall as 2 predators have tracked him down, but Swain shows up and rams his spear into one of them. This time, he had the courage to attack a predator. The one predator close to them gets blasted by the weapons on the chopper. Swain and Enoch get airlifted away. All 4 of them made it out alive. The last predator shows up and Mandy is about to fire upon it, but Jaya tells her to hold her fire. This one spared her life. He deserves a little dignity at long last. She throws a bag towards him as they take off. Within the bag are items of Predator technology, a gift left for the last surviving Predator. All those years on the island with no way to leave, but now things are different. He pays respects to his fallen warrior brothers, those that fought alongside him during their time on the island. He activates his wrist computer and pushes a few buttons. He might be contacting others to help him, or the constant beeping could be the self-destruct device. But this is where the story ends. Before this Predator class was revealed, some game files were data mined that showed tribal skin textures and a Tiki Predator class. If we look at the meaning of Tiki, there are some definitions that mention wood or stone, along with a connection to Polynesian culture. The name Tiki could have just been used as a placeholder until the final name was revealed later on. The story of Predator Hunters talks about exiled predators and how their armor was made of wood, since they lost access to their technology when their ship sank in the ocean. It's possible that the exiled predator is the one who survived at the end of the story, but since it does have different armor, I think the comic book just served as an inspiration for this new class. So that covers the lore around the exiled predator in Predator Hunting Grounds, and how it is linked to the ones from the comic book Predator Hunters. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like on it. If you want to see more content like this one, subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. This is Carlos, and I'll see you next time.
Ha 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 ha.